Anonymous writes, I'm concerned about staying on plan in winter. Every winter, I gain the weight I lost in the summer. The winters are cold and dark here. Any suggestions or tips for staying motivated throughout the winter? So this is a common problem. This is something I experienced a lot. Years ago, I would have the same pattern. I would get the weight off in the summer and spring, and then but in the winter time, my routine would just go out the window. I'd go back to eating all the delicious foods, and I would gain all the weight back plus some. But back in 2016, that's when I really changed the way I was doing things, and since then, winters have not been a problem. And when I was forming my plan, I really thought about trying to excuse proof myself. And really what I thought about a lot was things like wintertime. What does my life look like in winter? Which I really felt like, wintertime was generally the time where I felt the freest. I felt, like, wow, this is nice because I don't have to worry about what foods I'm eating and all that stuff. So when I was creating my plan, I really tried to think about that. Like I wanted it to be the same in winter as it was all throughout the year so that I didn't go through that cycle of weight gain. And I think there were some key features of my plan that helped me to stay consistent throughout the year, especially during the winter time. So the first thing was the cheat day. I know it sounds odd, but having that day off every single week made it so that every week I was practicing for those times, like in wintertime, where you have all these crazy things going on. You have a party one day, and that kind of throws you off plan, but you have to get back on plan. And so by having my weekly cheat day, that helped me to get really good at going back on plan. Another thing that helped was that I allowed myself all the foods all year long. So instead of, there would be things in winter where it was like, oh, I never get to have this. So now, I just need to eat enough kind of to last me all year. I just will allow myself that stuff throughout the year. And what I've found is, during wintertime now, I don't have those same struggles with like overeating on, Christmas cookies and things like that, because I'm always allowed to have these things. Another thing that has really helped is house walking. That was a way I excuse proofed myself so that no matter what the weather was like outside, I could get my steps in. And what I had noticed about myself was even, living here in Florida, I would have all these excuses about why the weather wasn't, exactly right that day. Maybe it was too hot, or maybe there was thunderstorms that afternoon, or whatever. But when I went to house walking, that made it so I had no excuse. I could be active every single day, no matter what the weather was like. And that has really helped me to be consistent, no matter where I'm at. Another thing that has really helped is just to always practice intermittent fasting. I really don't change my eating windows and stuff up based on the time of year it is. I try to make it so that all year long it's workable. And so, I've found for me personally, I do have certain rules for myself, like going off plan. I will go off plan for, parties and things like that, which means that wintertime is a time where I do tend to have more, off days. But what I found is because I'm doing it intentionally, it keeps me with a structure. I'm still on plan because I'm abiding by my own rules. And that makes it, again, easier to get back on plan the very next day. And of course, intermittent fasting helps me keep my weight in check. And it prevents a lot of the emotional eating that I would probably otherwise do if I wasn't practicing intermittent fasting, especially around the holidays when, you're missing family and things like that. And another thing I do throughout the year is weigh myself every day. And I feel like that's a great way that I keep myself accountable. It also makes it so that I'm well aware of any kind of upward movement of the scale, so that I'm not surprised, that it's going up. And so for me, what it all comes down to in the wintertime is just continuing to have structure and continuing to have goals. What I've found is, like there can be kind of this negative downward spiral that happens, right? Like if you don't get your steps in, or, you don't do some sort of physical activity, you don't feel so great. And so then what happens is like, you're kind of like, oh, I kind of feel hungry. Maybe that'll help me feel better. And then you just kind of end up, maybe emotionally eating, and then the weight starts to come on, and then, it's this vicious cycle of like, oh no, I feel bad because my weight's going up, and, you gain more weight. But instead, if you can create this positive upward spiral where you're like staying active every day in some form or fashion, for me that's how house walking, but for you it might be doing aerobics videos or something like that, or doing some sort of weight training inside your home. But regardless, doing some sort of activity so that you're still feeling good, which can then, because you still have this structure in place, can help you to stick with the fasting consistently, which will keep your weight in check. And then, by the end of the winter, you're going to be in a good spot. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to focusing on your why. Like, why is it important that you keep the weight off during the wintertime? Like, what will that do for you? And for me, things that I try to remind myself of are, for one, how miserable I was when I was obese, because I know myself well. I know I can gain weight really quickly. And so I have to keep that top of mind. If I go back to doing those things I used to do when I was obese, I will go back to weighing what I used to weigh. So I keep a very close check on, like, what is my activity level like? I keep my step goal going. What is my eating looking like? If it gets, too far out of control, then I need to change those things. And all that is because I want to stay where I'm at, because I'm happy where I'm at. I continue to have goals for myself. I have step goals and intermittent fasting goals and weight range goals for myself. So I hope that that helps you, and good luck this coming winter. And really, it has nothing to do though with luck. It has to do with just the actions you take every day. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching that video. I hope you found it helpful. Be sure to head on over to my website, 6milestosuffer.com, for more information about intermittent fasting, walking, and sustainable weight loss.